stage, who will be presenting on innovation in transforming coal mining operations. We will get to hear his great insights. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Keshav Rao, Director Personnel at Mahanadi Coalfields Limited. Sir, it is indeed a privilege to have you here amongst us. May I humbly request Mr. Rao to please join us on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we welcome him here.
Once again, good afternoon. So, a very good afternoon to everyone present here. It's indeed a pleasure, privilege, and an honor to be a part of this August gathering. I acknowledge the presence of all the senior officers from central and state government PSUs, all the worthy sponsors, all the organizers from Indian Express, and all other media persons present here. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Shrikant, editor, Express Computer, from the Indian Express Group, for giving us this wonderful opportunity to present ourselves before a wider audience. This particular summit essentially is about various IT practices and the tremendous improvements that are coming in our nation on account of these practices and how we are progressing. While I try to address these issues, I would like to start with and spend adequate amount of time on talking about coal sector, specifically because the theme of this conference also includes celebrating leadership, showcasing achievements, knowledge exchange, enhancing visibility, and digital transformation. So therefore, it would be in order that I take a little while talking about my own company. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you have heard of Coal India Limited. It's one of the Maharatna, one of the largest PSUs in the country. My company, that is Mahanadi Coalfields Limited, MCL, is one of the subsidiaries of this company, and we as a company are among the highest profit-making entities. Among the PSUs, our share of profit, our profit for that matter, was 8th in the country last year, 22-23. Now, we are not here to talk profits. We are here to talk about how the PSUs are making a contribution to the nation and how this is helping the nation grow. So at the outset, I start with a disclaimer that contrary to the fundamental theme, I shall be dwelling more on importance of coal for the industry and recent efforts in bringing about change in various aspects of this industry. So let me start with this presentation. So what is our vision for the nation? I mean, perhaps you would have been hearing during the last 1 year Honorable Prime Minister of India has been talking about making our nation into a developed nation by the year 2047. That's another 23 years to go. So, making our nation a developed nation entails, obviously, some military might, economic prosperity with dominance, food security, and energy security. So, this is broadly what constitutes a developed nation, and a developed nation that is strong. Where do we stand with regard to the attributes or the objectives that we should be aiming at in the next 23 years to make ourselves into a developed nation? Well, we are already the 5th largest economy in the world. We are heading towards becoming the 3rd largest. Hopefully that should happen in less than 5 years from now. We are a strong military, but we depend to some extent on imports for high-tech equipment. We are largely a secure nation as far as food security is concerned. And when it comes to energy security, we still are far from what we may call as energy security. So where do we stand with energy security? As you may be aware, or some of you may be aware, we are still importing almost 85% of our petroleum products. We import almost 20% of the coal required in this nation, which has of course decreased from the highest level of 25% import. So this just shows that we have been working continuously to reduce this import. Similarly, a lot of energy comes from renewable sources such as solar, wind, hydel. A part of this is dependent on imports to some extent. Nuclear energy is also dependent on import because the fuel has to be imported. We do not have so much of uranium, enriched uranium of U-235 that is required for running a nuclear power plant, nuclear reactor for that matter. Now, let me talk about coal as a source of energy. So, in our nation at present, coal constitutes 55% of the primary energy. For a moment, I'll be curious. How many of you understand the difference between primary and secondary energy? Okay, madam, would you like to say a couple of words on that? I guess you have to offer her a mic. Okay, never mind. We'll continue. Primary energy comes from, let's say, heat. Heat is a primary energy, but electricity is a secondary energy because we generate electricity by using heat. So coal is a source of primary energy, heat. Then nearly 70% of our electricity comes from coal. We import most of our steel grade coal, the coal that is used for making coke, and the coke that goes into the blast furnace for making steel. We also import high grade thermal coal because we are not able to produce high quality coal in the country. And it comes not because of any technological limitations, but because it is the nature of coal found in our reserves. So, another important attribute of coal that is mentioned in the last line of the slide is, it is among the very few sources of continuous supply. For example, when you use coal to power a thermal plant, the thermal plant can run continuously 24/7, round the clock. But same thing cannot be said for a solar plant. Solar plant will operate effectively between only when the sun shines, that too brightly. That is possibly, so say, to 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., almost the office time. So, in the same manner, wind is dependent on, if the wind blows, the wind power will be generated. If the wind doesn't blow, the power doesn't get generated. Another, hydel power. If there is no water in the reservoir, the hydel power cannot provide you electricity. Therefore, coal, gas, and nuclear, these three basic sources of energy are vital for continuous availability of power across the country. And let me tell you, the share of gas and nuclear is very small. Nuclear is hardly 3%. The installed capacity is around 7 gigawatt. So that explains the importance, because unless storage technologies become viable across the world, we have around 350 billion tons of reserves. And there is a rapid rise in the availability of coal during the last 3 years. I'll give you an example. We were producing around 730 million tons of coal 5 years ago. Today, we are almost touching 1 billion tons. Therefore, there is almost a growth of 50% in the last 5 years. More so, I mean, the growth was maximum, to the surprise of most of you, which should be a surprise, that maximum growth in coal production has happened during the COVID time. At the same time, we can see that the demand for electricity is also rising, and the demand for coal in other industries are also rising. Despite this, today we may be heading towards a situation within 1 year that from being coal starved, we would be heading towards coal surplus. This surplus, apart from this, there are limitations on the evacuation capacity. Perhaps you may be knowing, when it comes to long distance transportation of coal, it mainly happens through railways within the country or through ship route, if in case it has to go from, say, east to west. Because most of the coal is found on the eastern belt, that is Bengal, Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra, and also to some extent in Andhra Pradesh. Freight tariff is a concern, as I said. I mean, just to give you an example, when we sell coal to the power sector, the average cost of selling is around 1,000 rupees per ton. But when the coal gets transported from, say, somewhere in Odisha to a faraway place like Punjab or Rajasthan, the cost of transporting per ton is 2,500 rupees. That is, the transportation cost is, for a faraway distance, is 2.5 times the cost of the product itself. So this is something that has to be looked into for future. There are some other concerns with regard to coal, which include worldwide opposition over warming and pollution, global warming, as we are saying. But then global warming is not exclusive to coal. Global warming is happening because of petroleum also. Global warming is happening because of too much livestock across the world. Then there are obligations on us under international treaties, but we have been trying to resist such obligations because per capita consumption of coal is still very low as far as India is concerned, and we have our ambitions to grow, and the ambitions don't get fulfilled unless we have energy available for us. However, there is a need to import despite abundance. The reason I mentioned was one was steel grade coking coal, the other one was high grade thermal coal. Quality is a concern in our coal because it comes mixed up with some mud content or ash content, as we usually say. Coal is vital for energy self-sufficiency. I mean, I have already highlighted this point by pointing out that as on date, 70% of the electricity is happening, number one, and number two, the fact that it is one of the largest source which can provide uninterrupted continuous supply of power. So, what do we do towards reducing or becoming energy independent? First thing is reducing dependence on imports. Now, how will that happen? I'll briefly dwell upon. Boost to renewables in all forms. Regardless of the fact that renewables do not provide continuous power, they are necessary because not only they reduce carbon footprint, but also help us reach or meet the peak demand during daytime. Then the third item I mentioned here is exploiting coal reserves and using them for making chemicals. So there are several uses of coal that can be made. One of them is producing synthetic gas that contains carbon monoxide and hydrogen, etc. So if such a gas is produced, it could very well be used as a fuel, and should such a fuel be used, it would probably be helping in substituting import of hydrocarbons. We have to address issues of pollution and other concerns like ash and domestic use. I just wish to point out use of the last term, domestic use. You may be aware, in case some of you have visited the eastern part of the country, in the rural side where coal is available, a lot of people, simply pick up coal from the mines and they burn it and it generates too much pollution. The AQI of pollution generated by coal, by such burning, casual burning, can be much more than what is frequently observed during winter in Delhi. So that's one thing that has to be stopped. And it comes, it's like, the way the Honorable Prime Minister changed habits by providing toilets, in the same manner, we have to change habits of burning coal by providing alternatives. So this is where innovation in mining is necessary and it's ongoing. Now I'll come to the core of mining, some issues that I will be addressing. Some more on the brief on the energy matrix of electricity generation in India. I'll just quickly go through this. 87% of the non-renewable energy is produced from coal, and 13% is the renewable energy. Now, these are some statistics on various types of contribution of various types of energy, the electricity that is being produced in the country as of now, which includes, maximum share goes to thermal. Thermal includes both gas and coal. There is nuclear, hydro, solar, wind, biomass, small hydro, and some imports from Bhutan. This is a perspective on the coal production within the country. As you can see, this year the coal production has, on the extreme right, the coal production has gone to 997 million tons. and it was barely 705 years ago. And let me try to put a perspective on this. A single train, a single goods train is capable of carrying 3,700 tons of coal. So, to carry 1 million ton of coal, it requires minimum 300 trains. And to carry 1,000 million tons of coal, you need 300 into 1,000, 3 lakh trains. That is the scale and size of operations that is happening for energy transportation. Of course, 100% doesn't go through train. There are various other means like trucks, like conveyor belts, like merry-go-round, so on and so forth. Some perspective on how much coking coal we are producing. This is some perspective on the import of coal. As you can see, despite so much rise in the domestic production of coal, there has been a rise in the import as well. That is because, in general, the demand for electricity has gone up. So, and the demand for steel has gone up. So, there is more production of steel, and at the same time, there is more production of from the thermal plants that use good quality coal by design. Another aspect that is important is we have been setting up washeries for coal. Washeries for coal help in reducing the wasteful ash content in the coal, and to some extent they improve the quality of coal being transported through the trains, and in turn they improve the handling of the quality of power plants. For the same tonnage, you get more heat. Now, I would like to, I think already I am very close to the time that has been allotted for me. Is it so? So, I'll quickly mention some of the innovations that have been ongoing in the mining. I mean, I don't know how many of you have had the occasion to see a coal mine. Okay, I can see some 4 or 5 hands. Right. I hope you are from either coal sector or, okay, good. So, there are 2 types of mine. There is an open cast mine and there is an underground mine. Unfortunately, the coal industry has been negatively projected because we have seen movies like Kala Patthar, wherein a lot of people are saved from the underground mine. In the same manner, recently there has been Mission Raniganj that's available on Netflix, wherein again you watch a story of miners being saved from a coal mine. Now, let me tell you, the production from underground mines is rapidly reducing. It was more in the past. Now, with the availability of large-scale, heavy earth-moving machinery, 90% of the production in the country happens with open cast mines. When you do production with open cast mines, the first thing you need to do is remove the soil from top. To remove the soil, you have to loosen the soil. To loosen the soil, you have to use explosives. When you use explosives to loosen the soil, the first thing you do is you generate huge amount of dust in the atmosphere that spreads over a few kilometers, and then it causes pollution. So that's one thing that needs to be controlled. For doing that, we have started what is known as, I'll just show this is the picture. This is a device which is being used for digging the soil. This device actually, can even dig through the rocks. So, by using this device, which is known as a vertical ripper, we obviate the need for explosives for loosening the soil. The other thing is, as you can see here, this is a device known as, this is equipment known as surface miner. Once the coal is exposed, there was a practice in the past, there used to be again separate blasting of the coal portion. There used to be large pieces, large chunks of coal which were collected, and then they had to be crushed to the right size and then transported to the power plant. Now this particular device does two things at one time, in the sense it straight away produces small size coal for us, which can straight away be transported to the. This also reduces a lot of dust. Then there is another important innovation that I wish to mention here is regarding first mile connectivity. Generally, the transportation, wherever the train networks are not available, have to be done over short to medium distance by truck. Typically, trucks travel up to 100 to 150 kilometers, not beyond, for transporting coal. So wherever coal is being transported, steadily effort is being made that dust due to transportation by road, wherein a lot of coal drops from the trucks. Effort is being made to convert, put new railway lines and put new devices. This is known as a silo. You can see the picture in the extreme right, that is a silo. That single silo can contain 4,000 tons of coal, and that single loading of that silo will help in loading a complete single train. It will load 58 wagons of a train, almost 4,000 tons. So this helps in again reducing a lot of dust. So these are the efforts. There are a lot of efforts being made through use of artificial intelligence in mine safety, because I just mentioned about some of the reasons why coal industry was infamous. These are some artificial intelligence based devices for ensuring that a mine worker has the right kind of gadgets when he moves into the mine. There are other uses of IT and AI and IoT. We have GPS based vehicle tracking system. This is to prevent theft. RFID based boom barrier system, again for theft. And there are some for information. We have some chat GPT kind of stuff. These are some more devices which are being used for reducing pollution, dust on the roads. The device you can see on the left is basically a fogging cannon. Fogging cannon is a device that suppresses dust and other gases. It would be a good idea if fogging cannons are used during peak time in cities also, especially at the crossings where there is too many vehicles parked all the time. This can be a good device for suppressing dust and gases. So to conclude, I would like to say coal as an energy source will remain for the next 4 decades. Coal is not going anywhere for till 2070. That is the likelihood. Every year we'll be extracting almost anything between 1 to 1.5 billion tons of coal, and that will continue for the next 40 years. And we have much more reserves than that. So we need to exploit maximum reserves for ensuring we have energy independence, because coal can also be used for producing so many types of chemicals which can be used in automobiles, etc., and other places. There is a need to give thrust to renewable energy also. Renewables will not become a big player unless there is storage becoming cheaper. Alternative uses of coal should be supported through policy, market development to head towards self-sufficiency. So that's my view for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rao, for sharing all your wonderful insights and the brilliant initiatives taken by Mahanadi Coalfields Limited. Let me tell you that Mr. Rao is an alumnus of IIT Bombay and IIM Ahmedabad. And he has been responsible for being the director personnel at Mahanadi Coalfields Limited and has also been a part of some really wonderful initiatives taken by the PSU. I think now that we are all set for the next part, we have a very interesting presentation coming up. For this one, let me tell you in particular, right after this presentation, we have something exciting. So you are requested to pay a little extra attention to this presentation because you might stand a chance